This is We All Be, news-free Dixie for the 21st century. This is We All Be, news-free Dixie for the 21st century. See how it works? Somewhere. Can you dig it?
And so just want you to know. Man, I looked at that smile on your face just now. And the first time I ever wished I was a photographer to take that picture and let the world see that honesty and that integrity. And know some of the things I know, how you drive all over the country to chase us down. Chase us down. Okay? We move so fast. I don't know if you're married. I don't know if you're a family. I don't know if you're a wife. Okay? But when we get on here, we bosom friends. Anytime I see you, I stop whatever I'm doing. Hey, my man, how are you? Hey. Hey, man, well, that's, I owe that to you. It's an obligation that you have. How old are you?
Oh, 36.
So you don't have the right to do what 36 people do. You don't have the right to go to the dance or go to the party. You don't have a right to take that trip to Europe when I might need that plane fare to fly somebody else to feed my people that love me. Mm-hmm. You feed them. Oh, it's one thing being hungry from food. Right. There's another thing being hungry for information.
That's right.
And that's you the feeder. You got to be the farmer. You got to grow the crop. Huh? You got to till the grain. And at nighttime, when you hear something that sounds like water, you got to go see if the crop's going to be flooded. That's your job, man.
Hey, everybody, this is Brother Ron. I am asking you all to do me a big favor. Think about supporting the We All Be movement. Your donation is tax deductible. The We All Be Group Incorporated is a recognized 501c3. And I'm just asking you all because I want to keep on bringing y'all quality work through the way that I know how to do best. And I'm going to sing my praises and toot my horn. A lot of y'all were not hip to Dick Gregory until Brother Ron brought him on the We All Be platform, until that jingle review we did. Y'all seen another side of Judge Joe Brown, and Judge Joe Brown's message has been amplified. But it was We All Be that brought Judge Joe Brown to y'all back in 2014, and so many others. And we covered so many things. So help us out so we can help you all. Peace. Well, hello, family. Welcome to another wonderful, entertaining, agitating edition of The Artivist Presents We All Be, news-free Dixie for the 21st century. That's news-free Dixie for the 21st century. I hope y'all can hear me loud and clear. Let me know in the chat if you can hear me with no problems. Thank y'all for tuning out, to tune in, to get in where you fit in. This is We All Be. Yeah, baby. Got a good one for you all tonight. You know, a lot going on right now in the world today. So we're going to touch on that, but please feel free to tell a friend. Guess who's back again? Brother Ron. Tell your friends. Guess who's back and still black? Guess who's back and still black? Okay, thank you. Thank you for turning in. Y'all can hear me. Excellent. Thank you. Appreciate that. Hey, hello there. Nice to see you. Let y'all know I'm glad y'all are here with me today. Thank you. I appreciate it, man. Thanks. Yeah, I'm gonna try to do this often, but y'all can catch me. Like I said, I'm gonna be on rumble.com, we all BTV. Y'all can catch me on that because YouTube has been pretty crazy with the censoring. Today they just removed another Baba Dick Gregory interview I did over 10 years ago. It was just like what the reason why they gave was kind of ridiculous. So I'm gonna be phasing out, doing a lot of live streaming on the We All BTV original channel. But y'all can catch a lot of the stuff there. Like last night, if you're not going to rumble.com, we all BTV / we all BTV, you could check it out at the youtube.com / we all BTV 2. That's the number 2. But eventually I'm about to find another way to communicate because they're really making it difficult for certain content creators to get the message out. But it's God's plan. It's God's plan. So we're going to trust the process and trust the plan because we all be in it to win it. And I just want to get on here and talk about what is going on. 2024 is incredible. It's crazy. It's like who can imagine having a year like 2024? I remember 2016. 2016 was like a final destination year. Everybody was dying. All these icons was passing. Muhammad Ali, Fidel Castro, George Michael, Carrie Fisher, David Bowie, Maurice White of Earth, Wind and Fire. So many people were transitioning. Oh, of course, Prince, the purple one. So it was like one thing after another, all this seismic stuff going on. Then Trump wins as the president without winning the popular votes. Of course, Hillary Clinton got more popular votes than Donald, but he won the electoral college, and got 2020 with the pandemic situation. All the world was upside down. They canceled the Olympics, canceled March Madness. And you know what? That was serious. Kobe getting knocked off. Kobe, and that was crazy because people thought that was a sick cosmic joke. I kept on refreshing my browser. Could not believe he got killed on the day of the Grammys. It's just so many people. And Dave Stern, I think, passed before Kobe did, which is interesting. But 2024 is a different beast altogether. You know what I'm saying? This is like an incredible time to be alive and to just take it all in. And I just want to weigh in on the Trump situation that happened. Everybody should know, unless you was in a coma on Mars or something like that, you should know what happened on Saturday, July 13th, 2024. It could very unfortunate time. People are strange to me. A lot of people in my timeline, they think it was staged and fake, and it was nothing. Let me put it this way. Something real did happen. Now, people might have certain plans or intentions. I do not believe that Donald John Trump, the 45th president of the United States, about to be the 47th president of these United States, had anything to do with what went down on Saturday. And really, it's like as history repeats itself. This is nothing new. As we all know, we're a country that is very well acquainted with political violence. I don't care what Joe Biden says or Obama or even Trump. This country was built on political violence. And the fact that they can't be honest with the American people about that is a travesty. Because Dr. King himself, a Nobel Peace Prize winner, right? Dr. King figured it out. He protested our involvement in the Vietnam War. He made that famous speech back on April 4th, 1967 in Riverside Church up in New York City. Riverside Church. Dr. King made a speech April 4th, 1967, stating why he was against the Vietnam War. April 4th, 1968, he got shot in the face on a balcony in Memphis at the Lorraine Motel while trying to help sanitation workers on his way to DC for the Poor People's Campaign. Now, y'all talk about there's a Poor People's Campaign right now, Dr. William Barber. It ain't the same thing. Because, like, I believe their Poor People Campaign got more corporate sponsors than Dr. King ever had. Dr. King's intention was to bring 1 million plus people to Washington, D.C. of all creeds and colors and economic situations to protest, the war, and also to help redistribute the wealth. People get a living wage, getting reparations for Black Americans who are descendants of enslaved people. That was on the agenda. That was like, boy, not even 60 years ago yet. It's about 56 years ago. And fast forward to now, the cost of living is amazingly high. Morale is down. And there are no more Black leaders to advocate for reparations. We don't have any more Black leaders. I don't know if people understand what happened. We do not have any more Black leaders. We have Black entertainers and we have that. We don't have any Black leadership at all. It's like, this is what we need more. Y'all worry about Project 2025 when we already been decimated, right? We already been grind. We already been going through the hell, which is the United States Republic. It's a constitutional republic. It's not a democracy. This is not a democracy. It's a constitutional republic, and for which is a corporation. It's a social experiment. But like, we have nobody that advocates for Black people. Don't tell me about, no disrespect to the sister Jasmine Crockett. Yeah, she makes for catchy memes and T-shirts and all that stuff. But is she talking about Black folks getting reparations? If she's not talking about Black people getting reparations, she can't be a Black leader. If nobody's talking about Black people, how can you lead Black people? You can't acknowledge Black people. And my thing is, I respect Donald Trump because he does acknowledge Black people. Whatever y'all may think about him, I think it's strange, this Trump derangement syndrome. But if I could recall correctly, 4 years ago, Trump had a thing called the Platinum Plan, where he wanted to help the Black people get their business right. The Platinum Plan, I don't know if y'all remember the Platinum Plan. I think he did, he met with, I think they met with people. I think he met with Ice Cube or representatives of Ice Cube, whatever. Biden said he would meet with people like Ice Cube, but he had that infamous Zoom call that's been recorded. He had people like Derek Johnson over the NAACP, Al Sharpton, I think Mark Morial of the Urban League, National Urban League. He basically told all them people that, look, I'm not going to do anything for you people. I'm not going to do anything special for Black people. So y'all need to get with the Hispanics and get in line. Work with the Hispanics. I'm not doing nothing for y'all. Do nothing, Joe. Y'all talk about Donald Trump, the Central Park Five. And as I recall, he wasn't in office or in power to put anybody in prison, let alone put to death. He was just basing his assumption, what he believed, based on the public perception of the time, which was helped along by the mainstream media. And the media must own what they have created. It's not Donald Trump created the toxic environment. It's the media that created a toxic environment by creating a toxic narrative as it relates to Donald J. Trump, who was a media darling a couple of decades ago. He was beloved by the media, but now he's hated and reviled. And, it's like his interest, but they make so much money off the BS that you create an environment that will be conducive to somebody trying to unalive him. And, you think about, when I think about what happened with Donald Trump yesterday, because it was real. I know people, it looks fake because we're so desensitized. Like, we have been so desensitized. Look at the stuff we take in every day. Listen to our music. Toxicity at all levels, right? The movies, TV shows, everything's so damn toxic. Even the food we eat is toxic, right? I don't care if you're a vegan, Richard Simmons died at 76, all that working out and stuff like that. He couldn't make it to 100 years old. I know folks in their 90s eating bacon and smoking cigarettes and stuff. They good. So I don't know what to believe about all this stuff. But what I'm telling y'all is that this is just a toxic world, man. And Malcolm had it right. Malcolm was so prophetic. And Malcolm, the 100th anniversary of his birth is coming up next year. And when Malcolm was walking the earth, we were so much closer to where we needed to be as a people. We are so far away from what Brother Malcolm talked about and put his life on the line for, what he sacrificed his family for. We are so far away. And it was so close. We were so much closer 60 years ago where we needed to be as a people. And it's not a coincidence. This government took out our best and all this stuff. It's always an inside job. And with the Trump thing, it's always an inside job. I'm going to get a little bit of that, give y'all a little bit of history lesson, because this is the reason why I wanted to go this way was because they're really trying to silence me on social media. I never seen anything like that where they're removing TikTok videos because of hashtags. I had Herd Mentality. They said it violates community guidelines. My last name is Herd. I had a hashtag Negro Dumbest. They removed another TikTok video. They're removing Dick Gregory stuff from 10 years ago. I said, why are they so afraid of me? I don't have any power like that. I don't have no money. I don't have deep pockets. I just have a conviction to speak truth to power and to serve my people by any means necessary. Why can't I have an audience, a large audience like Candace Owens or Joe Rogan? Hell, even Alex Jones. He got, why they scared of me? I'm just a red dude, red Negro from Memphis, Tennessee. What power do I have? But the thing about it is we all have power. We can speak truth to power. We can say, forget this narrative they're pushing, reject this narrative, embrace something different. And I love to bring up Malcolm X because Malcolm X understood the psychology of so-called white inferiority. This is not white supremacy. It's nothing supreme when people are handicapped people, when people are getting cut off in the knees, when people are denied the potential to reach and fulfill their full potential because of whatever systemic abuses and negligence and this crap, right? This crap. So Malcolm said, I'm gonna paraphrase. I don't know what, man. I'm gonna paraphrase basically what Malcolm said. Y'all know this famous quote. I'm not talking about by any means necessary. I'm talking about the media is the most powerful entity on the planet because it influences and controls the minds of the masses. Like he also said, the media got the ability to make your friends your enemies and your enemies your friend. He talked about the deceptions, how politics in America is so deceptive. He talks about how the liberal is like a fox and how the conservatives are like wolves. And he respects the honesty of a conservative because they show their teeth as wolves, whereas the fox try to hide their fangs. So we still falling for that trick bag. See, Malcolm X would be against Joe Biden. You want to know why he would be against Joe Biden? Because he talked about the people that trained Joe Biden. He tried to warn black people back in 1964, the same summer of the National Democratic Convention in Atlantic City, I believe. You had the Mississippi Freedom Party, Fannie Lou Hamer, John Lewis, all these folks from Mississippi. They upset the apple cart because they said we wanted black folks to be represented in the Mississippi delegation. Because how are you going to have all these black people living in this state and they have no political representation? And that's crazy. But Malcolm was in support of Fannie Lou Hamer and the Mississippi Freedom Democratic Party. But what he's trying to tell them, he said, look, your senators, James Eastland and John Stennis, they basically Klansmen in suits. And they don't do nothing for black people. And we should not be beholden to any political party to the level that we are committed to the Democratic plantation. We should not be beholden to the Republicans. Republicans owe us an apology. They owe us for taking away Reconstruction. In order to keep the White House back in 1877, it was a very highly contested presidential election of 1876, right? I think Democratic nominee was Tilden. I think James Tilden. And I believe the Republican was Harrison. I think it was Benjamin Harrison. I'm gonna let y'all look it up, but what I'm trying to say is it was hotly contested. They wanted recounts that, people didn't trust the outcome of the election. So what happened was that the Democrats made a deal with the Republicans at the time. They said, look, if y'all want to keep the White House, we will let y'all have the White House this time if y'all will withdraw the troops from the South, the federal troops. If y'all are willing to withdraw the federal troops from the South and in Reconstruction, y'all can still have the White House. And so they kept the White House, and at the cost of Black people, because that Reconstruction era should be better studied and better known by us, because we had for almost a decade Black folks excelling at the highest levels. Black folks, we were killing it, man. We were killing the game. And that's why they do a lot of things to keep us in a certain place, because if we get a little bit of something, we make a whole lot out of nothing. We make a whole lot out of nothing. That is who we are as a people. So they took this. So the Republicans sold us out too. I mean, they help us get the Reconstruction. They help free us. The Republicans, party of Lincoln, and people keep on talking about, well, Lincoln didn't care about freeing the slaves. He did care about ending slavery, and it's complex with human beings. My thing is, we get too caught up in this trick bag of do they like us? Do they love us? And it's not even that they like or love you. It's more important that you love yourself enough to realize that you have value, that you have worth, and that you fight for that value and worth, that you demand a seat at the table, that you do things to leverage whatever you can to get where you want to go. And I don't feel like Joe Biden really cares for that, because who sent Joe Biden? The Eastlands, the Stennis, the Robert Byrds, was a grand imperial wizard of the West Virginia clan, longtime Democratic U.S. senator from West Virginia. Governor Faubus, who didn't want the Little Rock Nine to go to Central High School, governor of Arkansas at the time. George Wallace, come on, segregation now, today, and forever, whatever. That guy who also got they made an assassination attempt on George Wallace. People say, well, Trump is like George Wallace. And they tried to assassinate George Wallace. He ended up paralyzed. It was Black folks that helped keep his office as governor for him. And then with George Wallace is interesting, because when he first started in politics, he was trying to unite Black and white. He was trying to do that Bacon's Rebellion thing, where he wanted Black folks and white folks to be united for one cause. And then he saw how the Southern politics was played. He played the game. And that's one thing I respect about Huey Long. And then when I think of Trump, I think of Huey Long in a way. Huey Long is one of my favorite American politicians of all time. And he's not really talked about today. And when they do talk about him, it's always a very negative type of way, like he was a dictator. It sounds funny, he's a dictator. He took on Standard Oil and forced them to pay for free textbooks for kids in Louisiana. He took on Standard Oil and helped pave the roads and connected the parishes with bridges in Louisiana. He helped modernize Louisiana State University, LSU, by taking on big business and being said every man a king, right? He wanted a 40-hour work week. He wanted people to have living, working wages. They can live and not work so hard for living a quality life. He had the Share the Wealth program, the Share the Wealth movement back in the 30s. He had millions of people around the country who brought into his idea every man a king, a living wage, 40-hour work week. Huey P. Newton of the Black Panther Party. He's from Louisiana. His folks named him for Huey Long. And from my understanding, the reason why they named Huey P. Newton for Huey Long was because Huey Long had an adult literacy program where he taught adults, he didn't care what color you were, how to read. He wanted the populace of Louisiana to be literate, Black and white. He wasn't into playing race politics like a lot of people were. You got to think about it. This is around the time of the Klan. The Klan was very powerful back in the 20s and 30s. In particular, in the 20s, you had like 4 million people estimated to be in the Klan. And the biggest Klan state was in Mississippi or Arkansas or Tennessee or Alabama or Georgia. It was Indiana. Not every political person in Indiana would be mayors or even the governor's office were Klansmen. And I ain't gonna get to all that by this moment. I'll say this because I told Dick Gregory this. I told Baba Dick Gregory this. I told him something that he didn't know. I said, they say Donald Trump daddy was a Klansman, Fred Trump. The reason why I say that because there's a newspaper article, the New York Times archives from I think June of 1927. It talks about a Klan rally in New York City, in Queens. There was a Klan rally, I believe, in Queens, but it was New York City, no doubt, where the Klan got into it with the police. And they arrested one person in particular. I don't know why. It's funny how that's why I believe that Donald Trump could be a time traveler. They arrested one person from Queens named Fred Trump. You know, his daddy made a lot of money off of housing. He built the Queens Bridge projects, one of the largest projects in the country, home to a lot of rap greats like Nas, and you think about Mobb Deep. A lot of them came out of that Queens Bridge projects. But his father had got a lot of money building homes for veterans after World War II, as well as building projects from the government. And his father got in trouble because he got millions of dollars from the federal government to build these homes and whatnot and apartments. But he had ways to save money where he will pocket most of the money that was meant for building these places. And so I believe President Eisenhower caught wind and said, who is this Fred Trump dude that's getting all this money, putting millions of dollars in his personal account? Bring him to DC. Let's have a talk with this Fred Trump. So that's Donald Trump's dad, right? His dad was probably a Klansman. But it doesn't reflect on the son to me. I think Donald Trump gets a bum rap in terms of even like his relationship with black people. People got to understand, rappers used to love Donald Trump used to be loved by these rappers. All these rappers wanted to be Donald Trump. The only rapper I could say that really critiqued Donald Trump was Tupac. Tupac was the only one that probably just called out Donald Trump for the hypocrisy, not just necessarily Donald Trump, what he represented as far as the wealth in this country, the hypocrisy of the wealth in this country. Tupac, and now people say Tupac ain't real. And this is crazy to me. Tupac, to me, is my favorite, greatest rapper. He's most authentic. He was an artist. It's complex with black men. You know, we're not allowed to be vulnerable and sensitive. Let's look at it as being weak or effeminate, but Pac was a soldier. He's a righteous ancestor, as far as I'm concerned. And he was always different, but he criticized Trump back in the early 90s I think on MTV. I don't know if it was Yo MTV Raps, but it was on MTV. The clip is floating out there in the internet land and social media. You can find a clip of Tupac critiquing Donald Trump and the poverty gap in this country, the wealth poverty gap in this country. So it's very important. That's a why do I do? Because y'all not going to get people talking like this to y'all about these things. I think about these things all the time. I'm a lot of time alone with my thoughts. And then like the Donald Trump thing, when people said it was staged, it's fake. It wasn't fake. People lost their lives. People got injured. And what I want y'all to understand, this is a phenomenon called false flags. You ever heard of false flag? A false flag is an event that is orchestrated to create a real outcome. Is an event that is manipulated and orchestrated to create a certain outcome, a certain political outcome. Like, for example, you know, they tried to JFK Donald Trump Saturday. That was not Donald Trump trying to get himself killed. I'm sorry. I know a lot of y'all hate him. And it's like, you got to understand, that's the JFK thing. JFK, Secret Service. Let's talk about the Secret Service. Secret Service, they failed. And the reason why they failed is not because they reacted slowly in terms of getting him on the ground. They failed because they were notified of a threat by people that attended the rally. It's like, this is on BBC, right? You know, they're gonna try to find a way to scrub all this stuff like they did 9/11. How, you know, it was a black dude. They talk about building number 7 in 9/11, how they detonated. It was not hit by a plane or anything like that. It was detonated by the powers that be, or think they be. And then that black dude, he disappeared from off the face of the earth. You know, he was doing interviews. I think he was on Alex Jones' show. This is back in 2001. He said, no, they blew up building number 7. There was no plane that hit building. They just blew it up. And then next thing you know, we don't know what happened to him. He disappeared off the face of the planet. Maybe he was a plant. I don't know. But my thing is they always change the narrative. Just like, they Alex Jones got in trouble for Sandy Hook. He said it was fake. And it's more complex than that. It's not about being fake. It was orchestrated. You have a phenomenon where people talk about crisis actors, crisis actors. Yeah, just Google that term, crisis actors. This stuff is very much real. But while I was talking about JFK and thinking about Trump and the incident, the CIA, when President Kennedy became President Kennedy, the CIA wanted President Kennedy and his military people wanted him to do this thing called Operation Northwoods. Look up Operation Northwoods. Operation Northwoods will be a false flag operation that would you would create, like tragic events on American soil, and you'll blame it on Cuba and Russia. So we could get into a war with Cuba and Russia. So they say like you do mass shootings at movie theaters or blow up churches, whatever they do. And then you point it at Castro. This will kill American people, but it'll be all for, creating a war environment where people be more enthused to go to war. And Kennedy was against it. He said, I can't do that to the American people, basically. But they did it to him in broad daylight in Dallas. And Dallas, President Kennedy was hated in Dallas and Texas. I mean, even though his vice president was Lyndon B. Johnson, who was from Texas, Kennedy did not have the support. I mean, he had people that love him like anywhere else, but he should never been in Texas. And the thing about it is the Secret Service failed Kennedy when he came to Texas because, number one, they did not secure the buildings. They did not secure the buildings on the parade route. They changed his route at the last minute. They changed his parade route or route at the last minute to go down Elm Street. It's funny, people talking about, how people responded, right? How the audience responded. And, like I said, we desensitized to a lot of things. And how do you respond to something like that? You in the middle of the crowd, you on the stage with the president, and it's bullets coming from somewhere. You don't know where they're coming from. You don't know what to do. You trying to duck. I mean, there's nowhere to hide. People guys are going to stampede. I don't know. People act strange in those situations. Like with the King assassination, people was acting weird. If you read about the stories of how people responded when Dr. King got shot at the Lorraine Motel, people did all types of weird stuff. I think Ralph Abernathy took a handkerchief and dipped the handkerchief in the blood of Dr. King, I think. We know about Jesse Jackson, Reverend Jesse Jackson. He was in the courtyard talking to King, whatever. And when King got shot, he went up the balcony and just put the blood on his shirt, on his turtleneck, whatever. He had the blood. He just took the blood and started smearing it on his shirt. So everybody was acting with the way they act, because it's like, it can happen, but you never can really be too prepared when it does happen. So people got different ways of responding to things like that. It's like, even when you think about 9/11, George Bush was in a school in Florida reading My Little Pet Goat to kids, and his assistant whispered in his ear, and he was like Curious George. And Curious George, what? He didn't know what he was doing. So I mean, I don't know. But then you got the cases where they changed the parade route at the last minute. They did not secure the buildings, the high rises, and they let Kennedy get his head blown out like a watermelon. And what was crazy was people said, what about the slow response time of the Secret Service? Well, go back to the Kennedy assassination. When Kennedy got shot at and they realized they were getting shot at, why did his driver slow down? Why did the driver slow down? Because when the driver slowed down, instead of accelerating, and this driver, I think his name was William Greer. He was from Ireland. He was an old guy from Ireland. He really should have not been the driver. I ain't discriminating against old people, but he was too damn old to be the driver for the president. I mean, then he's from Ireland, right? And if you look at the Zapruder film, it's been doctored too, but he slows down as if to get a kill shot. Like, frame the president for their final shot. They blew his head up like a cantaloupe, like you busting a cantaloupe or a watermelon. I believe Jackie just headed for him. She hated that he did that a lot. Because why did you slow down? Because William Cooper, Behold a Pale Horse, he claimed that when he slowed down, actually that the driver had a gun. Because you look at the Zapruder film, it's like he had, you see some type of silver thing shining when he's looking back, as if to say that he shot the president from the driver's seat. But my thing, the biggest problem was he slowed down instead of accelerating. And that's a problem. And so the president got killed. And you also look at the fact that people talking about how the crowd responded. I'm gonna tell you something. They do a lot of they hide primary sources in history. This is like the Kennedy assassination. A lot of people saw what went down. A lot of the witnesses to the Kennedy assassination have been knocked off. They've been suicided, knocked off, whatever you want to call it. And the thing about it is the people that day, from my understanding, I read some things and watched some things. Allegedly, a lot of the people in the crowd that saw the president get killed, they wasn't ducking and diving and hiding. This is Texas. Even the babies and strollers got guns in Texas. They said, wait a minute, the shot came from the grassy knoll. Now they keep on telling us it came from the school book depository, right? They never found a fingerprint of Oswald's in the school book depository. They found a partial print of Malcolm Wallace, who was like Lyndon B. Johnson's alleged hitman. Malcolm Wallace was a goon for Lyndon B. Johnson, who was a stone cold killer. So his fingerprint, a partial print, was found in the school book depository, but Oswald's wasn't. But people said that the shot came from the grassy knoll. So you had a whole bunch of people that just saw their president get killed, charging the grassy knoll. You had a whole bunch of people from the crowd charging. It came from the grassy knoll. So you got to understand, you had military veterans in the crowd. They used to know about gunshots, people that knew how to shoot guns and stuff. They had, no, they came from the grassy knoll. So they rushed the grassy knoll. They don't tell us that. They leave that part out. You got to go do some deep sea diving to find out people's different responses to Kennedy getting killed. And matter of fact, it was the people that grabbed initially the tramps off the train. You know, like the tramps the famous tramps of Daily Plaza. You know, people claim that Woody Harrelson dead, who was a hitman for organized crime, that he was one of the tramps that they pulled off the train. So the police had to intervene to keep the people from doing something to those people that they felt were responsible for killing the president, and they didn't let the tramps go. I think one of the tramps was E.H. Hunt, one of the Watergate plumbers and other people. But I mean, just the same dirty tricks all the time. And that Kennedy thing is so deep, man. Matter of fact, I had the blessing of interviewing brother Abraham Bowden, who was a Black Secret Service agent, one of the first Black Secret Service agents, but he was the first Black Secret Service agent to serve on a presidential detail. And John Kennedy hand selected him as a part of his presidential detail. No, and my brother Abraham Bowden, he just got pardoned by Joe Biden. Joe Biden just gave him a pardon, and he don't deserve a pardon. He's an American hero. I'm gonna tell you why. He was on a presidential detail appointed by President JFK. He resigned from his post. He told his supervisors, and the reason why he resigned from the presidential post is because he said the president's life is in danger. The Secret Service men, many of them from the South, do not respect the president. They look at him as a Niagara lover. You know what a Niagara? He a Niagara lover, right? So they didn't respect Abraham Bowden. He talks about, like, maybe things like hangman nooses at his desk or whatever like that. They try to intimidate him. He said, I got to respectfully resign because they're not professional and I fear for the president's life. So he told his supervisor that he feared for the president's life because of unprofessionalism and the bias that many of the Secret Service who were from the South had for President Kennedy, who was from the North, right? And so when Kennedy got knocked off, now even before Kennedy got knocked off, Abraham Bowden, like I said, I'm gonna talk about this brother, and we'll try to bring him back on. Brother Abraham Bowden was stationed out of Chicago. That's what Kennedy met him in Chicago. He was at an event with Mayor Daley. Mayor Daley and his people had Abraham Bowden positioned at a bathroom in the basement. So they try to keep him out of the sight of President Kennedy. But somehow by God, Kennedy came to the basement, to the bathroom where Abraham Bowden was, and he struck up a conversation, and he was impressed by Abraham Bowden. So he made him part of his presidential detail. But Bowden helped stop President Kennedy from getting killed in Chicago. I'm gonna tell you why. They tried to get Kennedy in Miami. They tried to get him in Chicago at the Army-Navy game. And and Abraham Bowden, he's a Secret Service agent, and Secret Service operated from the Department of Treasury. So he busted a lot of counterfeit rings in the Chicago area. he almost had 100% conviction rate when he bust these criminals for counterfeited money and stuff like that. So he picked up some intel that there were Cuban nationals in Chicago with heavy artillery. Yeah, Cuban nationals. You know, you think about Bay of Pigs and all this stuff, and all this stuff that's going on, Cold War and all this stuff that's going on. So you had Cuban nationals with heavy artillery in the Chicago area. Abraham Bowden notified his people, and they advised, and Robert Kennedy, who was the attorney general, the president's brother, the attorney general, he told his brother he could not go to Chicago based on the threat. And that was a black man. So when President Kennedy got killed, Abraham Bowden felt so bad because at that time, they were talking about get rid of the Secret Service. You know, Congress was really considering, let's get rid of the Secret Service. They let the president get killed. Let's get rid of the Secret Service. And you know, they had the Warren Commission, right? And Abraham Bowden, he wanted to testify before the Warren Commission about the warning he gave about the Secret Service, some of the people in the Secret Service not caring for the president because they didn't like his policies or politics, or the fact that he, you know, respected, I guess, black people according to them, and he was an Niagara lover. Okay, so he made a phone call. I guess the phone was tapped. The government framed him for counterfeit. They try and claim he was leading a counterfeit ring, like he was involved in some type of organized crime counterfeit ring in Chicago. He got railroaded in the court, spent almost 5 years in prison in Leavenworth and Missouri, places like that, in the same facilities as the people he helped put away for counterfeiting. So the government was hoping that he got killed. They already shamed his name, destroyed his name, but they was hoping that he got killed in prison. Matter of fact, get his book, Echo from Daily Plaza. You can find it on Amazon. Also, he sells the book. He autographed it for you, Echo from Daily Plaza. That's his memoir. But they were moving around the prison system trying to get him knocked off. And by the grace of God, he was protected. Matter of fact, they had a prison psychiatrist trying to put him on all types of drugs and stuff like that, trying to drug him out his brain. This dude ended up killing himself. This prison psychiatrist, you know, they want to try to get him under, you know, that he's unhinged, and his psychiatrist, the one they appointed him at the prison in I think Springfield, I think it's somewhere in Missouri, he killed himself. So Abraham Bowden tried for decades to get his name cleared, right? You know, think about Obama wouldn't do it. Trump had it on his desk. They didn't go through with it, but Joe Biden did it. He actually pardoned him. But I talked to Mr. Abraham Bowden, and I said, man, you don't deserve a pardon. You deserve an apology. You're supposed to be exonerated. You did your job as a Secret Service man and as an American patriot, try to protect the president, and you almost lost your life doing that. And, you know, think about the time he spent away from his family, his wife and stuff like that. He paid a toll. This man is an elder and a great man, and all they did was pardon him for something that they pardoned him for doing the job. You know why? Because if they exonerate Abraham Bowden, it proves, without even getting them Kennedy papers to keep on holding up. You know, they're supposed to release the JFK archives back in 2017. They released just a little bit. But if they said we're going to exonerate Abraham Bowden, like I told him many times, this will prove that the government was in on the hits on the American president. You don't have to need nothing else. That's the exoneration of what happened to Abraham Bowden. It will prove that the government was complicit in killing the president. Elements of the government, like I said, like CIA, FBI, things like that. FBI, the Project 2025, want to get rid of the FBI. And I said, good riddance. I don't care for the FBI. I know what they're about. If you know the history of the FBI, you know they ain't about the good of the people. So he deserved exoneration. So we're going to get Brother Abraham Bowden back on here on the We All Be show and give him his flowers. So he got, Joe Biden did, I guess, health right by some black person, but he deserves back pay. He deserves a pension. He's a real American hero, but yet our black media does not know about people like Abraham Bowden. We do ourselves a disservice when we don't honor people like him. It's a shame. But anyway, getting back to Trump. Secret Service failed because they was notified by people at the rally that there was a gunman on top of a building not that far away from the stage where the president was located. And they did nothing. The police did not do anything. The Secret Service did not do anything. They had snipers. They supposed to have drones. They supposed to secure the area. You know, this the president or former president of the United States. And they just played with his life. And for people to say that he was in on it, it's a shame. I think what people don't understand is that why he raised his fist like that. You want to know why he raised his fist like that? He said, fight, 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 because he's a fighter. Think about the pressure, the scrutiny, the systemic and institutional bullying this man has taken on even before he was sworn into office. I never seen a president put on this type of pressure. Obama never had this type of pressure because we was afraid to expect anything out of Obama. We just happy that he was a good-looking symbol for good-looking family. We wanted nothing from Obama. And Obama did not deliver anything to black people. He gave gays and immigrants and everybody else everything. He gave black folks this lip service and pull your pants up at their graduation. Robert Smith paid our people student loan debt at Morehouse. Obama telling folks, pull your pants up. These folks are the cream of the crop. These are college graduates, sir, or about to be. And you talking about pulling up pants, and y'all mad at Bill Cosby about pound cake and stuff. And Bill Cosby done more for black people than Obama ever did. Yeah, I said it. Bill Cosby had done a lot for black people that we don't respect because we got a problem with one speech where Obama just totally disrespected black people. Like even when Jesse Jackson was caught on that hot mic and y'all mad at Jesse for all the wrong reasons. Reverend Jesse Jackson, he said, you talking down to black man, he need to get his balls cut off. You know, he said that on the hot mic. I remember when he said that and everybody, oh, Jesse, this man, Jesse put his life on the line for black people too when he ran for president back in 84 and 88. That had the Nation of Islam guarding him. He was saying stuff about them people before Kanye West ever thought about saying something about them people. Jesse already called them out. Y'all forget, y'all got a short memory. And I know, you know, there's some problem things with Jesse, but that's everybody. Like I told Dr. Cosby, man, you know, you brought up the pound cake speech, but I remember you protesting police brutality in Cincinnati. You boycotted Cincinnati. That was 3 years before the pound cake speech. Why can't balance the stuff out, man? Why we got to throw people away? Throw away the baby with the bathwater, right? So what I'm saying is, the Secret Service, that's tricky. What was that about? Man, I guess there's some people in the Secret Service, they don't care for Trump. And now they talking about the Secret Service need to be investigated. And they probably need to get rid of the Secret Service. Because you know what's interesting about the Secret Service? I remember reading, I don't know if it's true or not. I think it's true. They said the Secret Service was created by Abraham Lincoln. And it was created the same day he got shot at the theater, Ford's Theater in D.C. He created the Secret Service and he had no protection. The guy that was supposed to be protecting Lincoln, he went to the bar and took a drink and went to sleep. I think the guy's name was John Parker. So Lincoln didn't have nobody protecting him. And his security, his bodyguard went to a pub to have a drink and went to sleep. He didn't get fired until like 3 years later because he fell asleep at the job on the job again. But it's like, wow. And the guy that would normally guard him, Lincoln sent him on an assignment to go to Virginia. Had that guy probably been there, Lincoln probably would have survived that night. I don't know. You know, he invited Ulysses S. Grant, U.S. Grant, the general of the Union Army, future president of the United States. He supposed to have been there that night. But his wife had a thing about Mary Todd Lincoln. They had a little beef going on, kind of like, I guess, Kanye, Kim Kardashian, and Beyonce. You know, you got two guys that kind of respect each other. They work together. They collaborate. They win. But their wives can't get along, allegedly. That was the situation, I guess, with Ulysses S. Grant and his wife and Abraham Lincoln and his wife. And they say U.S. Grant regretted to the day he died that he wasn't there that night to stop John Wilkes Booth from doing that to the president. But Lincoln started the Secret Service and it doing no good. You know, you think we had 4 presidents be assassinated, you know, since that time, since the beginning of this republic, right, for which it stands for. But he had untold number of presidential assassination attempts. And like Trump was defined because he's a fighter, man. I mean, that man been through the gamut. How many of this thing? How many y'all can actually think that y'all can survive the legal persecution that Trump went through? I don't care what you think about his character or if he's guilty or not. Think about all the stuff they have thrown at him as a former president of the United States, they have set a bad precedent. They have used the system to do a witch hunt on Donald Trump and his most ardent supporters. And all his supporters ain't white supremacists or white nationalists. I support Donald J. Trump, not because I love him and I think he's the white savior, because I want my people to elevate. I want my people to rise and stop being complacent and stop staying on that plantation because of fear of not, of the unknown. Now you so used to being treated like crap, you think that's normal to be treated like less than. And even though you sacrificed the most, you served in every war, you gave your blood, sweat, and tears for social justice movements that everybody benefited more from than you. And you got the nerve to tell somebody, oh, you shouldn't talk to Trump. And Trump, the only presidential candidate I've seen in a while that talked about black people, black Americans. He mentioned black people. He talked about things specifically for the investment of black Americans. So Obama didn't do that. People of color, BIPOC, all that. No, black Americans, we should be treated as a special class of people like they treat the so-called Native Americans. That's how pertinent we are to the success of this damn social experiment known as America. So our problem is not Trump. The problem is we have no real black leadership in 2024. None. Y'all can't name one. And don't tell me Farrakhan. Farrakhan almost 100 years old. No disrespect to the elder. He's almost 100 years old. Where is the new blood? Where are the fruits of Farrakhan? Where is the people in place to affect public policy? Yeah, you got Dr. Umar, but Dr. Umar, where we need people that are in institutions that can set policy, that have our best interest. 60 years ago, we had Adam Clayton Powell Jr. from Harlem, the Right Reverend Adam Clayton Powell Jr. from Harlem, that we don't even talk about. Where's the movie about his life? Why the Obamas didn't produce a movie about him, but they focused this on a rainbow unicorn dude that was not as charismatic as they make him to be. They try like that Bayard Rustin was more charismatic than Dr. King or Malcolm X. He was nothing like that. That's not Bayard Rustin. He's more Bayard Rustin is like a policy wonk. He's a behind the scenes type of dude. He didn't have the fire. He's not even James Baldwin. Okay. But no disrespect to the ancestor, but I'm just saying, stop trying to elevate these people and put our people down, trying to destroy them and undermine them. But Dr. King gave his life for the cause, and Dr. King, in spite of his complexities and flaws and shortcomings, was indeed a great man, a great American, as far as I'm concerned. Same thing with Brother Malcolm X, But the thing about it is, the thing about what is going on, right? The Secret Service failed to do their duty. Trump almost lost his life. And really, the people don't understand we are in a civil war. The Civil War never ended. It's like the Korean War has never ended. North and South are still at war, but they call it a ceasefire. Think about it. It was a ceasefire call. It's because Korean War is still going on. They keep on perpetuating the Cold War with Russia and whatnot. And the thing about it is that ever since World War II, we've been in a wartime economy. Like this economy is ran on war. That's how we expanded our economy. Because even with the Ukraine thing, Joe Biden, because people say, oh, the Ukrainians getting all the money. It's not the Ukrainians getting the money, not the people of Ukraine. It's the businesses, the war profiteering, the contractors. They're getting the money. It's going to those people. It's not going to the people of Ukraine. It's going to the business interests of Ukraine. And that's an abiding crime family problem. And I spoke about that with Judge Joe Brown recently and stuff like that. But let me look up, because like the Republican convention starts today in Milwaukee. And I want to bring up somebody that I think about when I think about Donald Trump. I want to think about Teddy Roosevelt. Teddy Roosevelt. Y'all know who Teddy Roosevelt was. He's on Mount Rushmore, right? And Teddy Roosevelt was actually shot. I want to say, make sure I got it right. He was shot in Milwaukee. They tried to kill Teddy Roosevelt in Milwaukee because this is the year that he had to create the Bull Moose Party. because Teddy Roosevelt was a Republican. Matter of fact, when he was a child, he saw the funeral procession for Abraham Lincoln. Abraham Lincoln was one of his heroes. And when he was a little kid, there's a photograph of a little Teddy Roosevelt looking out the window of his grandfather's home as the Lincoln funeral procession made its way through New York. So he was Republican. You know, he became president at 42 because the president was assassinated at the time. William McKinley was assassinated back in 1901 in Buffalo, New York, you know, at the Pan American Fair or whatever, you know, World Fair back then. So Teddy Roosevelt became president. He's the youngest president. Now, I think Kennedy was the youngest elected president. I think Kennedy became president at 43. Y'all correct me on that. I'm no. I think it was 43 years old. Just because he was born in May. He was Gemini. So Kennedy became president at 43. That's the youngest elected president. But to become actual this president, because like, you know, whatever reason, Teddy Roosevelt was 42 years old. And you know, so he was the first president to invite a black person to eat at the dinner table. He invited Booker T. Washington to eat in the White House as a dinner guest, as an equal. This is back, I want to say it's October 16th, 1905. And if I'm not mistaken, white folks lost their mind in the country. They thought the whole world was in it when he invited Booker T. Washington to eat with him at the White House. And Teddy's complex. I ain't gonna lie, he's a white nationalist. You know, he believed in white superiority, but also he believed in protecting the environment. He believed in taking on big business and big bank and all that stuff. So to me, I think he's one of my favorite presidents. But he ran the Bull Moose Party because he lost the nomination for the Republican Party to William Howard Taft, who was the incumbent president at the time. So he was doing a speaking engagement in Milwaukee back in 1912. It was like October 14th, 1912. Roosevelt was in Milwaukee, coincidentally, the same city where Mr. Trump is scheduled to be nominated this week. As Roosevelt left the Gilpatrick Hotel to head to a nighttime speaking event, a man named John Schrank approached and opened fire with a Colt revolver. Several men tackled Schrank, but Roosevelt stopped the crowd from killing him on the spot. Wow. Roosevelt, 53, was saved by a metal eyeglasses case and the fat text of his speech, 50 pages folded over so that it was 100 pages thick in his pocket. But the bullet, even slowed down, still penetrated his chest, and he found blood on his hand when he searched for and found a dime-sized wound. Allies wanted to take Roosevelt to the hospital, but he insisted on proceeding to the auditorium to deliver his address first, and thus followed one of the most extraordinary speeches in presidential campaign history. I don't know whether you fully understand that I have just been shot, Roosevelt told the astonished crowd that he's got started, but it takes more than that to kill a bull moose. He got a Bull Moose Party. So Trump got that Teddy Roosevelt swagger, man. That's why he was pumping his fit, fight. Teddy Roosevelt was a fight enthusiast. He believed in boxing. He was a martial arts expert. I mean, that man was boxing in the White House. Teddy Roosevelt had a fight club in the White House. He got blinded in his left eye. I believe a sailor he was boxing hit him in his eye and blinded him. So he kept that a secret for a while, that he was blinded in his left eye. And he didn't want the dude to be punished for, like, you know, because they were sparring or whatever, and he got blinded. But Teddy Roosevelt was that dude. And he did a speech. He did that speech like for an hour or whatever. It was like a 90 minutes, an hour or something like that. And he went to the hospital after that. And that bullet remained in his body to the day he died. So Trump doing that, he understood the moment. He seized the moment. Maybe it was staged, you know, maybe he was a part of it, but it looks good. It's iconic. That's the picture of the year. That's an iconic picture. Donald Trump is a folk hero for the American people, and he's iconic. It's nothing they can do about it. They made this man the GOAT. Donald Trump is the greatest president of my lifetime. I was conceived and born during the Carter administration. I met Jimmy Carter and Rosalind Carter back in 2015 down in Plains, Georgia, at his church where he teaches Sunday school, or he was teaching Sunday school. I got a picture. I can prove it. Gave him a We All Be award. I got a lot of respect for Jimmy Carter, what he tried to do. But Trump is the greatest president in my lifetime. There is nobody that compared to Trump. Even all the stuff he had to go through legally, he would never be forgotten about. He will be remembered kindly by history. I ain't talking about the current like liberal historians and academics that got to axe the grind with Donald Trump. I'm talking about the people. It's going to make a difference. We need somebody like that to fight. And I believe that black men, the reason why a lot of us do like Trump and we respect him, some of us even love Trump, is because he's a man. He stands on something. He fights for himself. He fights for his legacy. He fights for his family, and he fights for the people. Donald Trump gave the Black Panther Party good housing up in Harlem. They were looking for housing. He gave them a good deal. And they don't never talk about that. And thank God that David Hilliard, one of the founding members of the Black Panther Party, he said that. He said, look, Donald Trump helped us out to find housing when we was looking for housing, because Donald Trump owned a lot of real estate in Harlem. So his father was a Klansman, but Donald Trump helped out the Black Panthers. So I mean, he's his own person. And he did a lot of things behind the scenes to help other black people. Like he did things to help Mike Tyson. And that's why Mike Tyson speaks so highly of Trump, because Trump actually defended Mike Tyson when everybody was throwing Mike Tyson under the bus, including some black people. Donald Trump on national television took on David Letterman and said, hey, you can't talk about Mike like that. You know, they should allow him to get out, make his living, and donate his boxing purses to domestic violence organizations, but let the man make a living. And he was set up. And Donald Trump said the man was set up. And Donald Trump said that you can find this clip on social media. I gotta say this because I'm tired of black people living in fear. Malcolm X didn't care for Democrats. Some people said Malcolm X was going for Barry Goldwater. Mr. Extremism, Barry Goldwater, right? Who was the presidential candidate back in '64. You know, Lyndon B. Johnson won in the landslide, but if Barry Goldwater didn't run, there'll be no Ronald Reagan as president. You know, maybe, perhaps, I don't know. I don't have a time machine. I'm not a time traveler. But what I'm saying is, Trump represents manhood. Manhood has been under attack for 60 plus years. Judge Joe Brown, all manhood. They want to emasculate all masculinity. They want to get rid of manhood. They do want to get rid of manhood. They do want to. They have done things to lower the testosterone level of men, of males. They have done things to lower our testosterone level. We think it's hereditary. No, it's systemic racism, systemic genocide, systemic all types of stuff. They have done things to lower our reproductive ability. Y'all thinking all these black men, you think all black men having all these babies, a small group of y'all having all the kids, getting them nut on. But nothing wrong with that. But they have done a lot to lower testosterone, to lower the drive of men. Men, we are here to provide, to produce, to be ambitious, to be driven. They help. You got so many young people committing suicide, young men, young males. I meet some of these guys. Some of these guys are even military veterans. They are so depressed about their lot in life. And they just think the best thing is to end their life. I know people that have ended their lives, good men, good young men who have taken themselves out the equation because they had nothing to look forward to. And it's by design. But with Trump, it gives you like a testosterone boost. If you're a man, you say, look, I want to take my power back. I want to stand on something. I'm not going to apologize for believing the way I believe, for doing the things that I do. And to me, that's Trump. That's what Trump represents for me. It gave me the courage to keep on going when they're trying to cancel me on Whitey, on YouTube, on TikTok, and on Instagram. When they're trying to limit my views and people watching me, that gave me the ability. If this dude can fight, this dude took on the system. He is Jack Johnson. I don't care what y'all say. That's Jack Johnson reincarnated. And Trump had the balls to pardon Jack Johnson when Obama was afraid. Obama was afraid of his own black shadow. That was made for Obama to pardon Jack Johnson. Jack Johnson used to live and is buried in Chicago. Obama's hometown is Chicago, according to y'all. So why couldn't he pardon a dead black man? But Trump had the balls to do it. Because Trump is Jack Johnson for this time. He campaigns like a boxer. I can't imagine what Joe Biden would have did in Donald Trump's shoes. And Donald Trump's shoes got knocked off his feet. So he was like, where are my shoes? You know, There must have been some nice, expensive shoes. I know. Why are you concerned about his shoes? I said, because people respond to stuff like that differently. And he had the presence of mind to pump his fist. He knew they were going to get him a lot of campaign support, a lot of money. Because people now saying he already won the election. He hasn't won the election yet. It's still it's like 100+ days away. Anything could happen. It's like anything happened, almost happened this past Saturday. It did happen. That was real. That was not staged like y'all think, but it can be a false flag. Now, look up the Gulf of Tonkin incident that led to the escalation of the United States involvement in the Vietnam War. That was a false flag, right? Because now we know it was it was staged. It was staged so we get the people behind us being in Vietnam, so we could put the troops on the ground. Before Kennedy got killed, he was withdrawing troops from Vietnam. Kennedy was trying to get all our people out of Vietnam, and he had an order he signed to bring the troops back home. Then when he died, they reversed that order. So, like, Joe Biden was on TV, I think last night. He did a address to the nation concerning the Trump thing about, we don't believe in political violence and all that. And a commentator said that, as a reminder, Joe Biden keeps a bust, like a sculpture likeness of RFK in the Oval Office. He keeps a bust of RFK in the Oval Office as a reminder. See how hypocritical that is? You keep a bust of RFK Sr. who got assassinated running for president, but y'all refuse to lend Secret Service protection to his son, RFK Jr., Robert F. Kennedy Jr., who's also running for president. And you say you don't believe in political violence. This man not only lost his father, he also lost his uncle, who was a president of the United States. They tried to get his other uncle, Ted Kennedy. So it's still and to kill Kennedys, I guess. It's unfortunate. You understand? Because I was thinking today, what if JFK Jr. and Robert F. Kennedy Jr. ran for office? What if JFK Jr. was the president, running for president, and his cousin ran for vice president? And you started to think about what happened with JFK Jr., and he was eliminated because he could have possibly been a senator from New York State. He was popular enough to become president by being a senator from New York, like his uncle Robert Kennedy was a senator from New York when he was running back in '68. JFK Jr. could have ran against Hillary. So that's the problem, because Hillary, when she was stepping out the White House, she wanted to run for senator from New York. And if Kennedy was in that race, it would be a problem, of course, because you got the Kennedy Camelot. He got charisma, good looks. He just looked the part. He looks like his mom and his father, but he looked a lot like his mom. He had a certain type of class and star power about him that Hillary lacks. So then they got rid of him over this. I'm not saying they. I'm not saying anybody in particular. They got rid of him and talking about Pilot's error. They killed him. And because one thing he was doing, he had that George magazine. And he actually had a meeting with Fidel Castro that lasted for hours. But Fidel Castro basically told him that, hey, I had nothing to do with you killing your father. You should look into this and that. And I believe if he had became president, he probably would have looked into some things concerning his father and even his uncle. And they got rid of him. And his mom didn't want him, she did not want him to learn how to fly a plane, to be an actor, or to run for president, from my understanding, Jackie Kennedy. She did not want her son to be in politics, to be in Hollywood. Because at one point he was dating Daryl Hannah. I used to have a crush on Daryl Hannah when she did that movie Splash with Tom Hanks. I think it was Tom Hanks in the movie Splash when she played a mermaid. But anyway, I say all this, I digress. But they labeled it Pilot's error. And y'all remember when they spend all that money and resources trying to find the body of JFK Jr., his wife, and his sister-in-law. What was weird to me, they found the bodies, then they buried them at sea. Or at least they buried JFK Jr. at sea. So, like, why? You should have left them in the water. Now, I'm just saying, I spent a lot of taxpayer money trying to find the bodies, but y'all gonna put them back in the water? Okay. But it's just weird because, like, I'm just putting stuff out there because people don't talk about a lot of this stuff. Then you got Andrew Jackson, the president. See, Trump, his favorite presidents, I believe, are Andrew Jackson, the guy on a $20 bill, and Teddy Roosevelt, people like that. And Andrew Jackson is problematic. What I love about Andrew Jackson is the fact that he took on the banks. He saw that the Rothschild banking people were evil, and he took them on. And he almost killed them at the White House, almost killed them in D.C. They were trying to assassinate Andrew Jackson in Washington, D.C. He got so mad at the assassin because the gun backfired. He almost beat the dude to death with a cane. He almost beat this guy to death with a cane. And people like David Crockett and them had to get him off this dude, you know. But I say all this to say that I have no problem with Donald Trump. But to go back to Malcolm, it's like the hate that hate produced. The media is the most powerful entity on the planet because it influences and controls the minds of the masses. Never forget that. Malcolm was taken out by media. He helped co-found a paper, Muhammad Speaks. You know, it was like the media apparatus of the Nation of Islam back in the day when Elijah Muhammad ran the Nation of Islam. The same paper he helped found put out an op-ed or editorial, whatever you want to call it, calling for his death. This is nothing I made up. This is like they had a cartoon of Malcolm's head bouncing down the street with devil horns. The paper that he helped create put that out about him at the end, that he deserves to be marked for death. And with Mr. Farrakhan, I have a lot of respect for him, but that's a part of his obituary. He got to own it, you know, and I believe he did own it. Like, we helped create the environment that got Brother Malcolm neutralized, but it still was the government that did it. It wasn't Nation of Islam like that. But what's interesting, like, you know, Minister Farrakhan was over in Newark at Mosque 25 at the time when Malcolm got assassinated in Newark, right? Because we know this because Barbara Walters asked him. I thought nobody ever asked him that, but Barbara Walters did ask him, and she could tell she was infatuated with Farrakhan. She, you know, you could tell how she was looking at Farrakhan because, you know, Barbara Walters liked that. She liked Jungle Fever. You know, she was messing around with Edward Brooke, the good-looking Republican senator from Massachusetts. They were lovers and stuff. So he said he was at Mosque 25 in Newark, and that's the mosque where them shooters came out of. The so-called hitters that went for Malcolm allegedly, they from Mosque 25 in Newark. I mean, like, one of the guys appeared in Cory Booker's campaign for mayor, I believe, one of his campaign commercials for mayor. He was a well-respected community leader in Newark. But this is the guy who allegedly, like in the movie Malcolm X, the guy that came down the aisle with the shotgun, that was him, portrayed in the movie. And the high school he went to is now named for Malcolm X. Poetic justice, mate. But anyway, I'm not laughing at that, but you got to own up to that. We got to tell the truth, right? Because, like, even with Malcolm X, you had John A.L.L, who was the National Secretary for the Nation of Islam. He used to be a good friend of Malcolm X. He was FBI, according to sources, that he was an FBI asset. And he controlled the communication between Elijah Muhammad and Malcolm X. And if he's FBI, think about the Black Panthers, how the FBI will send out coloring books to white families, you know, send them to saying the Black Panthers, they believe in killing the pig and all that. They showing all these graphic images of Black Panthers doing stuff to police, and they made the police like they look like they're pigs. But they had the white people thinking that the Black Panther Party produced these coloring books, or they will write poison pen letters to different leaders and street gangs. Like they said, well, Jeff Fort, Fred Hampton and the Panthers got a hit on you. That was the FBI telling him that, or they'll write to Fred Hampton, hey, Chairman Fred, the Jeff Fort Black Peace Stone, they gunning for you, bro. They gunning for you. It's all about divide and conquer, because once we understand that white power is divide and conquer, that's how they control all of us. But Black power is unity and solidarity. To paraphrase Brother Malcolm X, he said that the Negro Revolution is controlled by foxy white liberals and the government, but the Black Revolution is controlled by God. He said the Black Revolution is controlled by God. Malcolm, you look at Haiti, Bookman prayer, Bookman Duddy, right? Bookman Duddy prayer. We understand our connections with the ancestors. We used to understand that. When I went to Chicago recently, you know, I had the first cousin reunion. It was amazing. But I decided to stay a couple of days. It was my first time really going into Chicago, and Chicago's an amazing place. I see why a lot of our people left the South to move to Chicago, in particular, my people from Mississippi. Chicago is amazing. It's a beautiful place. Don't believe everything you see on TV. Now, everybody got their rough spots, but Chicago got some good people, some great people in Chicago. And I said, I gotta visit the ancestors. Because Ida Well's birthday coming on July 16th. So I paid my respects. I went to the cemetery where she and her husband been buried since the 30s. And it's a beautiful cemetery on the south side with a lake and swan, whatever, all types of interesting birds. And so it was amazing going to visit Ida B. Wells. And people said, well, there's nothing there. I said, there is life in cemeteries. You see grass, you see trees, you see birds, you see butterflies. There's life, there's energy in cemeteries. It's not dead space. You can't kill energy. The ancestors are always with us, all around us. We just got to call on them and honor them and respect them, because they really are us. We are the ancestors. You know, reincarnation, all that stuff. Energy never dies. So I went there. I collected grass from her grave. I do that a lot. I go to different ancestors' graves and collect dirt or grass from their grave to help build my ancestor walls and all this stuff like that. And I went to Emmett Till's grave in Alsip, Illinois, outside of Chicago at the Burr Oak Cemetery. And I stayed there for about an hour, and it was like, what the hell? This is Emmett Till's grave. And his birthday coming on July 25th. And I also went to his childhood home on the south side that they turned into a museum. It's being renovated to become a museum. With the Ida B. Wells home, met a good brother there, Brother Carlos, a Brooklyn transplant. He moved to Chicago back in the 70s. Bronzeville. I mean, he could tell he loves his city. He loves his neighborhood, his community. He will talk about Muddy Waters, and Coco Taylor would come be at the grocery store shopping and being like everyday people, just normal people, and you could have a conversation. And then at the same time, see him perform at the club. And he said, man, it was crazy. Like, you know, you see him perform at the club. He's from New York. He's so used to paying a lot of money to see these iconic musicians. But in Chicago, you have to pay hardly no money to these people. And they were like normal people, even though they were world renowned, you know what I'm saying, people, they were everyday down to earth people. And so he really got that point across. And Chicago is a powerful place. And that's why Black people are standing up in Chicago. And they're not trying to talk about it. And that's why the Democratic Convention is going to be a problem. Because I'm thinking like the Democratic Convention could be like how it was in 68 in Chicago, as well how it was in 64 in Atlantic City with the Mississippi Freedom Democratic Party. Because Black folks, Black Americans are tired of being disrespected. We got to be tired of disrespecting ourselves as well, too. So this is important to take these stands. And this is why I talk about the stuff that I talk about. And the Trump thing is bigger than that. Because, like, you know, if he had got killed yesterday or on Saturday, we would have been in a civil war. Because Trump has a lot of supporters, not just white people. Y'all keep, oh, white people. Y'all say all these presidents are white supremacists. You think about it. I mean, ain't y'all Ida B. Wells? I love Ida B. Wells, but they all went for Woodrow Wilson. Woodrow Wilson was Joe Biden's wet dream. You understand? Woodrow Wilson is the reason why we got the IRS and the Federal Reserve. He resegregated the federal government. He resegregated Washington, D.C. He endorsed the movie Birth of a Nation, which was based on a book, The Klansman, written by his college classmate, Thomas Dixon, who was from Shelby, I want to say Shelbyville or Shelby, North Carolina. That was his birthplace. And guess who was caught in Shelby or Shelbyville? I think it's Shelby, North Carolina. Dylan Roof was caught there after he killed all them Black people at that church, Mother Emmanuel. They caught him there. And you see how they took him to Burger King for his Whopper. So I think it was very symbolic that they caught Dylan Roof in Shelby, North Carolina, where Thomas Dixon is from and was born. But then we don't have people that educate us about our history. It's like yesterday they had Saturday they had that march in Nashville. We had like these, I guess, white nationalists. They were marching with the American flag and the Confederate flag, but they was like, they had masks on in the middle of the day, marching down the street. And people got afraid. People were scared. But it reminded me of several years ago, you know, when they had them white folks marching in Boston with, I guess they had the American flag, Confederate flag, whatever. Yeah, Shelby, North Carolina. They had the American flag, right? But people don't understand on Saturday was the birthday General Nathan Bedford Forrest, the first Grand Wizard of the Klan, who was a Memphian. He was born July 13th, 1821, but he was a Memphian, an alderman, a notorious slave trader, war criminal, Fort Pillow Massacre. July 13th was his birthday. You know, in the Nashville Capitol building, they used to keep a bust of Nathan Bedford Forrest in the Capitol building. And we just took down the statues of Nathan Bedford, a statue of Nathan Bedford Forrest, which was on top of his remains on Union Avenue in Memphis. We took that down back in December of 2017. But that was there since 1904. And see, if you don't know that stuff, you don't know, if you don't have no context for it, you don't know. It's like when people say, well, black folks should be out celebrating the 4th of July. So we created the country. We had 5,000 black people serving with George Washington in the Continental Army. You had a double spy named James Armistead Lafayette that really won the war for America. He was a double spy. He was a spy. He was spying on Benedict Arnold, the traitor to America, who was our American war hero, who betrayed the American cause. He tried to take West Point, all that. He helped give intel on Benedict Arnold. He helped give intel on Cornwallis, so they was able to defeat the British, because George Washington lost more battles than he won. He won the war because of a black man that risked his life. You know, there's even a story about George Washington being saved from food poisoning at a tavern by a black woman. They tried like it didn't exist. I don't know if it's real or not, but this story is out there. Just Google this story about this black woman at this tavern in New York saved the life of George Washington from being poisoned. She stopped them from poisoning George Washington. But now people act like it's a fairy tale, like him chopping down a cherry tree, or Abraham Lincoln never told a lie. Every politician lie, and that's a lie. Abraham Lincoln never told a lie. He's a lawyer. He was a lawyer and a politician. He told many lies. But anyway, it's fascinating times we're living in, and it's the Trump guys. People call about the zeitgeist. I call it the Trump guys. It's the time of Trump. I remember I interviewed Baba Dick Gregory, one of our greatest interviews, probably one of the best interviews he ever did. You know, people talk about the Breakfast Club and all that. I set the table for them guys to interview Baba Dick Gregory. I ain't talking about this damn time. I set the table for how people would interview him. And he thanked me before he died. A year before he died, it was in Kansas City. He said, you know, Ron, I'm more popular now than I was even in my prime. Like when I was a younger person, I'm more known. He got reintroduced to a new generation of people. But his stuff is prophetic. Dick was like 8 years too early. He was 8 years early about his assessment of what was going on. But like I remember sometimes he'll talk about Trump's shadow. And I'm not in the mind of Dick Gregory. Dick Gregory was a unique American and a humanitarian. Dick Gregory ran for the mayor of Chicago. Mayor Daley didn't like that. He ran for president of the United States. This before Jesse Jackson. This before Obama. He actually ran direct for the president of the United States. When Jesse was running, he was running for the Democratic nomination in 84 and 88. But Dick Gregory, I think, ran for the Freedom Party. And they say he got 9 million votes in Pennsylvania. And they took it back saying it was a mistake. So you show you like what Donald Trump said, the game is rigged. Because Dick Gregory, what if he did win the presidency back in 68? But he also ran for mayor of Chicago. And Dick Gregory was a target by the FBI. Dick Gregory, there's articles out from back in the day that talk about how the J. Edgar Hoover directed the FBI office in Chicago to utilize La Cosa Nostra, the organized crime, the mob, to take out Dick Gregory. Now, this is stuff that's actually available, easily available if you just Google it up. He talked about it on my show a couple of times. And that's the power of Dick Gregory. Unique person. But he talked about Trump's shadow. He said, I'm not afraid of Trump. I'm afraid of his shadow. Meaning that he was afraid that what was coming after Trump. So we're living in Trump's shadow right now. We are in Trump's shadow. And Trump is not the problem. It's like a spirit of the times. Like he represented a changing of the guard, like everything becoming more exposed. He talking about drain the swamp. Look at 2024. Look at how Cat Williams prophesied about 2024 in his Shannon Sharp interview. Like everything will be exposed. Trump started that, process of draining the swamp. There's a lot of things. They talking about Joe Biden don't get credit for a lot of stuff. Trump don't get credit for a lot of things he helped start. And he was very prophetic about the situation with the migrants. And now There are replacements. We got to deal with the migrants. We got to deal with AI. We got a lot of things, black people, but we got no leadership. We got no agenda. Y'all keep on talking about be on code. We don't even got no black code. And you don't even have to reinvent the wheel. So you could take the Black Panther Party, 10-point platform. Dr. W.E.B. Du Bois wrote about an economic strategy for black people decades ago in one of his books. He outlined what black people can do to gain power and access. You got Dr. Frances Cress Welsing. She had a code, you know what I'm saying? Even Tupac had the Thug Life code that he made with his stepfather, Dr. Mutulu Shakur, that's available online. You got things from the ancestors. They gave us blueprints to work from. We don't have to reinvent the wheel, but we have no understanding or overstanding. We think that Kendrick Lamar, I love Kendrick Lamar, that him making that song is going to free us. That's not going to free us, because somebody made a great point recently. He said, somebody asked him, like, who won? I think Lord Jamar on the Art of Dialogue. That was, Lord Jamar. It's great. I like Lord Jamar. He good people. He said, because the interviewer Art asked him, like, who you think won? He said, he first said Kendrick won the battle, but then he said, I take it back. He said Universal won. He said Universal, I'm paraphrasing here. Universal basically owned both of those guys. These are artists connected to Universal Music Group, right? So so the powers that be won. We didn't win nothing, because like that situation with Drake and Kendrick Lamar, it reminds me of Jack Johnson, how he became the first black heavyweight champion, his origins. Because Jack Johnson was from Galveston, Texas. They call him the Galveston Giant. He was over 6 feet tall, solid black man, muscular, like a god. You know what I'm saying? Jack Johnson was their G. He had the bald head and the gold teeth. He was that guy. But Jack Johnson helped develop his craft by fighting in battle royales. And, James Brown biopic with Chadwick Boseman, it shows a battle royale scene where you put these black boys and men in a ring-like setting. White men get around would throw money at the feet of these black men and black boys. They will be blindfolded, and it was like they were playing Punch Out, like it was like Mike Tyson Punch Out in real life. Like, you blindfolded though, and you punching around, and the last man standing gets the money on the ground. So that's how you do black people in this system. So you got Drake and Kendrick, punching themselves and punching each other. And the biggest winner is not Drake or Kendrick Lamar. It's the system. It's Universal. It's Lucy and whatever they do. I call them Lucifer, Lucy, and Lucy. Like Kendrick talking about Lucy. They win. You know what I'm saying? So we got to start looking at this strategically and start really getting woodshedding what's going on. That's very important. And I think I'm going to wrap it up. I think I said a lot. I don't know if I said everything I wanted to say, but I just wanted to get on here and say this, because I refuse to be silent in this time. I think we need voices, different voices with different views, to help us understand this world we navigating in. And I want to be one of those voices. I'm willing to put myself out there. And I think it's so important right now that we speak out. Don't let these people silence us. Like I said, they do a lot to try to silence me. And I used to be discouraged, but like once I realized that, God got better for me. Sometimes God will put you in uncomfortable situations, make you realize something to help you realign yourself with your actual purpose. So I'm going to keep on elevating. I want to encourage you all to keep on elevating and supporting We All Be. I want to thank the people who have donated so far, because we need all the help, man. This is grassroots power right here. I want to thank the people that donated. We all be in it to win it. Thank y'all sincerely. Thank you, Black Mama. Thank you so much. Said for sending love to you, dear brother. Thank you so much. I appreciate it, sister. Brother, or I don't know, it's A. Jordan. I don't know if his brother, Black Wolf. I get on. He said, for big fan, keep going. Well, everything counts, brother. Thank you. Everything adds up. There's no such thing as a big or small donation. Everything adds up. And I want to encourage y'all now. What I'm gonna do here, I'm simulcasting, casting on different platforms, like on Rumble TV. or rumble.com/WeAllBTV. You can find this in the archives. WeAllBTV2 on YT, on YouTube, youtube.com/WeAllBTV2, WeAllBTV2, excuse me. That's youtube.com/WeAllBTV2. And like I said, I'm moving the archives and stuff from the official original WeAllBTV channel because of all the censorship. They keep on removing videos. Luckily, I got stuff backed up. That's a good thing. I got backup, so I'm gonna start uploading the banned videos from YouTube to my Patreon page. It'll be for paid members. I'm gonna start doing that process this weekend. And also, we're gonna get into this Trump shadow thing. We're gonna talk more about what's going on in the world right now as it relates to Black Americans. And yeah, so I said, like, I was looking at the news about the Trump thing, and they're talking about this and that. Oh yeah, I want to mention this. I want to mention this, like Trump. I talked about Chicago, right? Chicago is a gangster town. I love Chicago. It's like it's a gangster town. It's like they don't care about the color of you. They care about the color of money. It's polarizing. But if you're willing to take what you want, they gotta respect it. That's how I love Chicago. I love the attitude. I love the city. I love the wind, the wind in the city. But I want to talk about Chicago. But I think it's interesting to talk about the attempted assassination attempts. Like the guy, unfortunately, the family man, the firefighter was killed protecting his wife and daughter, who got shot in the head that was meant for Trump, I think. And it reminds me of what happened to Franklin Roosevelt, in particular, not necessarily to Franklin Roosevelt, the president of the United States, but to the mayor of Chicago, Anton Cermak, who was in Miami with Franklin Roosevelt right before he was sworn in as president of the United States. I want to say this was 1933. I'm gonna look all this up. 1930. Anton Cermak was an interesting character in Chicago history. Like I said, Chicago is a gangster town. Not just Al Capone, a lot of gangsters, different colors, different creeds, nationalities. Anton Cermak was the mayor of Chicago back in the day, back in the 30s, the early 30s. And he was a gangster. And make no mistake about it, he was a gangster. He wanted to control the organized crime in Chicago. He wanted to be bigger than Al Capone. By being mayor of Chicago, he wanted to control organized crime. He wanted everything to run through him. So he was trying to get that power up. And what he did, he died March 6, 1933, so it was 1933. I want to say right before President Roosevelt was sworn in as president. He died in Miami, Florida. He was 59 years old. Let me see. But he wanted to take over Chicago crime. And the biggest fish in town was Frank Nitti. Frank Nitti was Al Capone's number 2 man. And when Al Capone went to prison for income tax evasion, Frank Nitti became the boss of the outfit. They called the Chicago mob the outfit because the outfit was interesting. Chicago mob is different from the New York mob because they had a lot of associates who weren't Italian. Some of them were English, Welsh, Irish. They even had a Japanese dude that was a part of the Chicago outfit. Just looked it up. They had a Japanese dude that was part of the outfit. So the outfit was like a United Nations of the organized crime. But anyway, he was down in Miami. But before that, he wanted to take over the crime in Chicago. So he sent some police people. He sent a dirty police squad to the business of Frank Nitti, I believe. He answered the door. They put a bunch of lead in. They shot him up. They shot up Frank Nitti. They were trying to kill Frank Nitti on behalf of the mayor of Chicago. These are Chicago police. Because a lot of people now think that the Chicago police did the St. Valentine's Day massacre. It wasn't Al Capone. People say it was police. It was people dressed as police. Some people believe it was actual Chicago police that killed Bugs Moran's men at their garage on February 14th, 1929. And Al Capone wasn't the one, but who knows? But the fact that the mayor of Chicago several years later after the St. Valentine's massacre would send a police group squad to Frank Nitti's business and shoot him point blank, basically. And somehow he survived the assassination attempt from the mayor's goons. And so you fast forward to read. I'm trying to see all this. Okay, so you look at the death, right? On February 15th, 1933, while shaking hands with President-elect Franklin Roosevelt at Bayfront Park in Miami, Florida, Cermak was shot in the lung and mortally wounded by Giuseppe Zangara, who was attempting to assassinate Roosevelt. At the critical moment, Lillian Cross, a woman standing near Zangara, hit Zangara's arm with her purse and spoiled his aim. In addition to Cermak, Zangara hit four other people. Margaret Cruz, 21, of Newark, New Jersey, shot through the hand. Russell Caldwell, 22, of Miami, hit squarely in the forehead by a spent bullet, which embedded itself under the skin. Mabel Gill of Miami shot in the abdomen, and William Sinott, a New York police detective who received a glancing blow to the forehead and scalp. All four of these injuries were minor. Once at the hospital, Cermak reportedly uttered the line that was engraved on his tomb, saying to Roosevelt, "I'm glad it was me, not you." The Chicago Tribune reported the quote without attributing it to a witness, and most scholars doubt that it was ever said. That's how the media works, you know. When the lie becomes the truth, print the lie. Zangara told the police that he hated rich and powerful people, but not Roosevelt personally. Later, rumors circulated that Cermak, now Roosevelt, had been the intended target, as his promise to clean up Chicago's rampant lawlessness posed a threat to Al Capone and the Chicago organized crime syndicate. One of the first people to suggest the organized crime theory was reporter Walter Winchell, who happened to be in Miami. It's like Walter Winchell was like the Joe Rogan of his time, I guess, who happened to be in Miami the evening of the shooting. According to Roosevelt biographer Gene Edward Smith, there is no proof of this theory. Okay. Is that Arthur Ronald Humble provides yet another perspective as to why Cermak was killed in his book Frank Nitti, The True Story of Chicago's Notorious Enforcer. Humble contends that Cermak was as corrupt as Thompson, that's the former mayor of Chicago, and that the Chicago outfit hired Zangara to kill Cermak in retaliation for Cermak's attempt to murder Frank Nitti. Okay, I think that may be true, that it was like they really wasn't targeting Roosevelt because Giuseppe Zangara was from Italy. He was an immigrant from Italy. And you know, even but Lucky Luciano in his autobiography, alleged autobiography, he said that the Cermak hit, that Cermak was intended to be killed and not Roosevelt because you know, the war he got going on with the Chicago outfit, and the fact that he did allow the police to try to kill Frank Nitti in his place of business, I believe. And Giuseppe Zangara is interesting. He's not from this country. He was from Italy. And he was electrocuted in a chair down in Florida. And let's see. He was an Italian immigrant and naturalized United States citizen who attempted to assassinate the president-elect of the United States, Franklin Roosevelt, on February 15th, 1933, 17 days before Roosevelt's inauguration. Because back in those times, the president was sworn in March, not like we have in January now. We went in January, but back then you went in the fall. You get sworn in March. So that's how that works. So he was president-elect. Trying to see something. Yeah, I think Cermak was the intended target. Now, look him up. Chicago's an interesting place. It's not a place for the weak, you know what I'm saying, as far as politics is concerned. There's another guy in Chicago, Alderman Benjamin Franklin Lewis. He was a brother, very influential alderman, 24th Ward up in Chicago. They actually killed him in his office, whoever these people are. You know, in the 24th Ward, he was in his office. I believe he got shot 3 times in the head back in 1963. And his murder is unsolved officially to this day. And I think it's fascinating because the person who replaced him as alderman was George Collins, who became a congressman from Chicago, another brother who got killed on the Watergate plane crash on December 8th, 1972. There was a plane that crashed into a residential neighborhood in Chicago on his way to Midway Airport, I believe. It killed not only George Collins, the U.S. representative, his wife took his seat and held that seat for 20 plus years. I believe she was the first Black woman to serve in Congress from the Midwest. So she held that seat. She held it down for him for 20 something years, that seat that he had, and that she inherited basically after his death. You also had Dorothy Hunt, the wife of E.H. Hunt, one of the Watergate plumbers. He also allegedly one of the tramps in Daley Plaza that I talked about earlier. He was a CIA spy master and a prolific spy novelist. And his wife was on that plane, and they said she had in her suitcase $2 million worth of travelers checks from the Nixon administration. This is before Watergate broke, right? So she was getting this money from the Nixon administration as hush money for the families of the Watergate plumbers and for their legal representation, like the men who end up going to prison for the Watergate break-in. She was representing their interests. So she allegedly had $2 million, I think, of traveler checks or something like that on her person in a suitcase. And on a plane with her was Michelle Clark, one of the first Black woman TV news correspondents on anchors, right? She was a journalist. She supposed to have been interviewing Dorothy Hunt about the Watergate thing, and Michelle Clark, her boyfriend allegedly was CIA. Her boyfriend was allegedly CIA. And her family got ran out of Cicero, Illinois back in the 50s. It was a famous case. This Black family, these good people, her parents, good people, very educated people. They even had a piano in their new apartment. And you hear about 5,000 white people in Cicero trying to lynch a Black family. And the reason why they didn't succeed was because the governor of Illinois at the time, Adlai Stevenson, who also ran for president on a Democratic ticket back in 52 and 56, I believe, he called in the National Guard to stop 4,000 to 5,000 Black folks, 4,000 to 5,000 white people from lynching this Black family. And all they did was move into the neighborhood because Cicero was a sundown town for decades. Cicero, Illinois was the headquarters for Al Capone gang as well, too. They had a thing called the Cotton Club out there. And the entertainment, the house band was led by Walter Barnes, who was a Black Chicago band leader. He was Al Capone's favorite band leader. And he was good he was good to the Walter Barnes, looked out for him and stuff like that. And he died during the Rhythm Club fire in 1940, April 23rd, 1940. We had a couple of hundred Black people perish in a nightclub down in Natchez, Mississippi. And he was one of the people that died. He was the entertainment for that night. But I'm getting all out. But George Collins, and the thing about the Watergate plane crash, right? The first responders were the FBI. It wasn't the police. It wasn't the fire department. It was the FBI. They got on that plane. Allegedly, they took that money from Dorothy Hunt's dead cold hands, and you never heard about it again. And Michelle Clark, I don't know. I think I read somewhere where they cremated her body without her family wishes. They did not get the family consent to cremate her body. I heard something like that. I don't know what sure. But really, that makes sense if they did that, because it would cover cost of death. It's like if you remember Ron Brown, it's the Secretary of Commerce for the Clinton administration, how they say he died in a plane crash, but the people that did the forensics at the military institute, whatever, they said, it was a bullet hole in the top of his head. They had the x-rays and they gave it to Dick Gregory. And then around the time when it was picking up traction about the Ron Brown assassination, that's when the Lewinsky scandal hit. Because Ron Brown was threatening Bill Clinton allegedly to go on to the press about how he was the bag man for Bill Clinton as it relates to China. And he was looking out for his son. He said, I'm going to go to jail for the stuff. I've been implementing some things, but he was making sure his son was safe. So he was telling Bill Clinton, if you don't do this and that, I'm going to tell them about me being your bag man for China. But don't do that. Don't do that, Ron, son. Don't do that. All right. We're good friends. So I heard a version. I read a version that will happen. But, he was on the plane that Hillary Clinton supposed to have been on, and they switched at the last moment. So I also read in that plane crash where they shot him in the head, allegedly, that it was a stewardess that survived. And she really would have survived. They airlifted her to the hospital. And when she got to the hospital, she was dead from a broken neck. You can look all this stuff up. You know, I'm just throwing, there's a lot of stuff I can throw out there. Because right now, I'm watching this Trump and Biden and this election campaign cycle. This is better than House of Cards. This is better than any season or episode of House of Cards, especially when Kevin Spacey was on there. It went to crap without Kevin Spacey. But this is like looking at House of Cards in real time. All this stuff going on. But anyway, I think that's it. But yeah, it's what they do, man. I could talk about a couple of things, but this is what they do. The games. And you got to look at how they changed the story. Like, look at the narrative on the alleged would-be assassin. They say he's 20 years old. He looks like he's an incel. He looks like somebody that's a loner. What else am I gonna say? Like incel, somebody that's a loner. He probably got a manifesto somewhere, because they all have manifestos. I'm sure he got some type of manifesto. They said when they killed him, he had a t-shirt on of a famous YouTube firearm channel. They probably gonna shut that channel down because YouTube being very strict on censorship. But they said he had a t-shirt on of a YouTube channel that was very popular when it came to firearms. So I'm sure YouTube probably shut that channel down by now. These people crazy, man. But like, it's like going back what Dr. King said, you know, I'm gonna paraphrase Dr. King. He probably said it like that in print. I don't know, but I'm gonna paraphrase it so y'all can't say I lied. He said that to paraphrase Dr. King, he said that the greatest purveyor of violence on the planet is my own government. The greatest purveyor of violence on the planet is my own government. So for them to say that there is no room for political violence in America, that's bullshit. Because America was built on political violence. People are weird to me. And y'all, you know, it's how soft we gotten as a country. We so damn soft. We ain't stand no type of hardship, even though we having hard times now. We don't want any type of hardship. And we suffering. Your blood pressure, you know what I'm saying? Your sugar, oh, you just suffering. You, I don't want the hardship. Project 2025. You live in the Project 1619. You in Project 1619. You in Project 1865. You in Project 1877. Whatever. You know, we've been surviving massacres and slavery, Jim Crow, black codes, Plessy v. Ferguson, separate but unequal. We've been through going to that. So what's the problem? See, the thing, the truth of the matter is that we are not ready. We have not been ready for a long time to take it to the next level, whatever that may be, whatever you want to think that is. Like I said, we are not where we should be as a people. Now, you got individuals. It's like Magic Johnson. I remember I seen Magic Johnson for the Freedom Awards. They honored him one year, the Civil Rights Museum, and the Freedom Awards, and they would have a forum right before the annual Freedom Awards banquet, where they have a forum where the high school kids or kids in the schools, the area schools, could come to this forum and connect with the Freedom Award honorees. So it was him, Dr. John Hope Franklin, one of our greatest historians, and a sister that was the president of Liberia at the time, I believe. They were the honorees. I'm not going to ever forget what Magic Johnson said at their event. He said, today we got more black millionaires, more black millionaires than any time in this country. I'm paraphrasing. But in 1960, we had more black businesses. And when people don't understand the reason why we was able to succeed a lot of times, because we had businesses, we controlled our institutions. We had our own banks, insurance companies. We did things among ourselves. We were forced to deal with each other. So Jim Crow was not always all bad. He's like, oh, so bad, I can't go there. Why do we want to go to places where we're not celebrated, but not even tolerated? We want to be in spaces and places where we're not even tolerated. That's crazy to me. That's insane. That's Stockholm syndrome. My thing is, if an elder tell you that they just had it hard every day of their life, they lying. Why are you still alive then if you had it hard every day of your life? If you had it hard every day, that mean there was never a good day? Even in Jim Crow South, you never had fun? That's bullshit. And I disrespect, but come on, man. Even the slaves had a day off. They had the day to worship. They did things. They celebrated things. That's just human nature. But what I'm saying is, we want to get stuck in this mode of being a victim. We want to be, like it's never nobody else's fault, right? It's never like, if I met a person or I meet people, it's like, I said, why did they treat you like that? He said, I don't know. I don't know why. I said, everybody treat you like this? Yes. Well, you the common denominator. If everybody's treating you a certain way and you the common denominator, that means you got to figure out what the problem is. It's something you got to figure out, because what you put out there is what you get back. A lot of times, like the energy and stuff that you put out there is what you get back. And you can always find what you're trying to find. You know what I'm saying? You're looking for something, you'll find it. If it's not there, you'll manifest it. So that's important to remember and stuff like that. But I think I'm gonna call it a night, man. I talk my mouth. I could talk. I'll be hesitant to get on. I'll be talking. Yeah, he was part of Bill Clinton sold out the American people. Like he traded in the unions for Goldman Sachs. Goldman Sachs been a part of our government since the Clinton administration. At least they've been prominent. A lot of our Secretary of Treasury were Goldman Sachs connected. Some of the Supreme Court justices we recently appointed, Goldman Sachs related. Like especially Obama, he appointed a lot of Supreme Court justices who was Goldman Sachs assets. So the Democratic Party been sold out to people. Like, Bill Clinton also repealed the Glass-Steagall Act, which led to the economic collapse eventually in 2008, the housing crisis and all that stuff. Anyway, yeah, NAFTA and Joe Biden up there bragging about it. I don't think Nixon was no bigger crook than any other president. Nixon was very intelligent. I'm impressed with Richard Nixon as I look at some of these clips on YouTube. He was highly articulate and intelligent. He understood geopolitical stuff better than a lot of people today. Nixon had his faults, but Nixon also did a lot to help Black people, if we honest about it. And I'm gonna tell you why. Whitney Young, who was the leader of the National Urban League, probably the best leader they ever had. Now, hands down, Whitney Young was the greatest leader of the Urban League ever. And he made it his business that these presidential administrations, Kennedy, Johnson, and Nixon, gave money to Black causes. He made sure that we was represented well in these corporate spaces. And I think he said that he got more money out of Nixon for Black causes, for the Urban League and for Black people than Kennedy and Johnson. And Nixon did his eulogy when he passed away. I believe he was assassinated. He died while swimming off the coast of Nigeria back in the early 70s. And Nixon did his eulogy. Then you had Floyd McKissick, who was a great activist that we don't talk about. He was a lawyer activist. He was part of the core leadership, Congress of Racial Equality leadership. Nixon gave him $20 million to start a Black town called Soul City in North Carolina. Remnants of it exist to this day. I think some people still live in the area. It was called Soul City, Soul, like SOUL, City, Soul City. Nixon administration gave him $20 million to create this town to help out Black people, and really all people, but in particular Black people. And the same government that gave this man the money, they accused him of misappropriating funds. And after the investigation proved that there was no corruptness, no unethical, there was not anything unethical going on, people moved on. Investors move on. The damage was done. So it was abandoned. It's basically like almost like a ghost town. You got some people still live there from my understanding, but look up Soul City. So Floyd McKissick, a Black Republican, got $20 million, I think, from Richard Nixon to do that. So Nixon it's like Trump. Y'all talking about, redlining. Trump didn't invent no housing discrimination. The government invented housing discrimination. Balance out the good and bad. Then Richard Nixon, what I like about him, because I know a lot of us hate Richard Nixon and they're talking about Dr. Henry Kissinger, making deals with the devil, but it's more complex than that. People, he hated he hated black people. Maybe not, but I know he loved jazz music. Richard Nixon was a hell of a musician, according to the jazz musicians. Like Dizzy Gillespie, he could play. He could play a little bit of everything. But what I like about him, he did something for Duke Ellington for his 70th birthday party. He had the 70th birthday party of Duke Ellington at the White House, who was a Washingtonian. And Duke Ellington was denied so much in his amazing career. It's sad how racist this country is, especially when it comes to our black geniuses. Because Duke Ellington is arguably the greatest American composer of all time, one of the most important composers in history. And he was up for a Pulitzer Prize, and they denied him the Pulitzer Prize. I think it was back in 1966, and he was almost 70 years old. And he said something very classy to me. He said, people say, how you feel about you not getting the Pulitzer Prize? It's long overdue. I mean, he's the greatest American composer. He said, God just don't want me to be famous so young or too young. He took it like that, even though he's almost 70. So I respect the fact that Nixon did that birthday salute to him at the White House. And they said Nixon could play. He could play just about anything he put his hands on. That's how good he was at music. And then there's a story, I'm going to leave it at this, about Richard Nixon. There's a story, Louis Armstrong was told by David Murray, the great saxophonist out of California. It's a story about Louis bumping into Nixon. And Nixon, hey, Louis, how you doing? How you doing, Armstrong? How you doing? Say, hey, how you doing, President? How you doing? How you doing? He said, oh, I see you got some baggage there. Can I help you with anything, Louis? Yeah. Take the suitcase, man. Take the suitcase. Suitcase was full of weed. It was full of weed, but because it was President Nixon holding the suitcase, nobody gonna question it. And he gave it back to Louis Armstrong. He said, thank you, Lord, Press. Thank you. Oh, yeah. I don't know if he was president at the time, but it was Richard Nixon. And nobody ain't questioned Richard Nixon. And Louis Armstrong smoked weed every day, So anyway, that's my Nixon stuff. Thank you for tuning out to tune in to get in where you fit in. I'm about to shut it down. I think I talk enough. I know I can ramble on and stuff, but this is like, to me, the news miss opportunities like this with the Trump thing. Stop like feeding the people fear and feed them facts. Stop feeding people fear and facts. Like this gave me a chance to talk about historical stuff. I'm a nerd, as you already know. It gave me a chance to put in some type of context about what happened and why this is not a stage incident. This was real, but we've been so desensitized by popular culture and the media and social media. We are losing our empathy for us as a people. We got to get our humanity back. We got to reclaim our humanity. You understand? But when they say America ain't about political violence, and Joe Biden got a bust of Robert F. Kennedy Sr. in his Oval Office as a reminder, and yet you won't extend Secret Service privileges to his son, his namesake that's running for office like his father was. That's ridiculous. It's hypocritical. It's disingenuous. There you go. He was a Secretary of Treasury, Goldman Sachs connected. And he was doing the Clinton administration, right? That's when they started, from my understanding, that's why I started noticing them doing Goldman Sachs connected people as a Secretary of Treasury. And Lawrence Summers was a Secretary of Treasury. He was Goldman Sachs, and he was a president of Harvard University at one point, I believe. I think it was Larry Summers, I believe. I don't know. Y'all look that up. Thank you. Very informed. I like doing these shows with people that's very informed. I am in the house. I'm about to leave the house, but I'm in the house because we all be in it to win it. Woo. Thank y'all for tuning out to tune in to get when y'all fit in. Goldman Sachs. Yeah, speaking about, and bring up Reagan. I'm going to close out with Reagan. Like, people talk about the Reagan assassination attempt. And Reagan and Trump, to me, they're kind of like alike in a way. Before the Reagan or George W. Bush, y'all remember that time when George W. Bush was at a press conference? I think it was overseas, and the Middle Eastern guy threw a shoe at George Bush, and George Bush was athletic. I guess he was a cheerleader back in the day or whatever. He ducked it. He made it look so smooth, like he ducked the shoe getting thrown at him. They got the guy. I guess the throw shoes is like an insult thing in the Middle East, whatever. Anyway, Ronald Reagan, the assassination attempt, right? I remember I had on the late great John Judge, a research an assassination research expert. He passed on. He's an ancestor. But he talked about how the Reagan thing, they said that David Hinckley was the one that shot Reagan, but he implied that the shot came from a downward. It was like somebody shot from above, shot Reagan from above. And the plan was to take Reagan to the Naval Hospital in Bethesda, Maryland. They was going to try to take him to the Naval Hospital in Bethesda, Maryland to finish him off. But the George Washington Hospital was closer. So somebody, I guess as an act of God, somebody said, you know, why are we going to Bethesda when you got George Washington right there? And that would save Reagan's life. Because I don't think y'all can remember, like doing the COVID thing, when Donald Trump got COVID, they took him to Bethesda Hospital. And the next thing you know, he got out of there real fast. Said, hey, I'm good. I'm getting better. He didn't want to stay in Naval Bethesda Hospital. And, you know, I'm a conspiracy realist. And Naval Bethesda Hospital is where they send people to get rid of certain people, certain powerful people. Like, for example, James Forrestal, who was the first Secretary of Defense under Harry Truman. He was allegedly a part of the Majestic 12. Like, you know, we talking about UFOs are real now. He was part of this organization that was like UFO connected, Roswell, Mexico, whatever. But he was the first Secretary of Defense. And he was, in his own way, anti-Zionist. He didn't believe in recognizing the state of Israel. He did not want to recognize the state of Israel. And he was like some other stuff as well. But he had, I guess, mental issues like a lot of people in power do. But because he was so, I guess, anti-Zionist, whatever, he was a problem. And they thought he was a loose cannon. So what they did was they threw him out the window of the hospital. I think he was on the 16th floor of the Naval Hospital, and it said it was suicide. So they suicided James Forrestal at Bethesda Hospital, Naval Hospital. And then Senator Joseph McCarthy, a very powerful senator from Wisconsin back in the 50s, you know, the Red Scare, McCarthy trials and all that, you know, very popular, very powerful Irish Catholic senator who dated the Kennedy sisters. He had a thing like Joe Kennedy, Papa Joe, loved Joe McCarthy, a Republican. He loved this guy. Matter of fact, it was Joe McCarthy as senator. He gave Robert Kennedy his first job as part of his legal counsel team back in the day. And matter of fact, Robert Kennedy named Joseph McCarthy as his godfather to his firstborn, Kathleen Kennedy Townsend, who was former lieutenant governor of Maryland. So her godfather was Senator Joseph McCarthy. Now today he's villainized, he's hated. But back then he was right. Communists did infiltrate the government. It's been proven over time he was right. But what they did was he went to a Naval Bethesda, I think for some type of knee injury. Next thing you know, he dead. They got rid of him. He dead. He went from having like some issue with his knee or joint, I believe. I can't remember exactly, but nobody expected him to pass on like that. You know, it was weird. Then you had Frantz Fanon, you know, the famous Black African revolutionary philosopher, Frantz Fanon, Wretched of the Earth, I think, something like that. Y'all know, let's look him up. Take a look, it's online, okay? He was treated at Bethesda Naval Hospital for, I think, a form of cancer, leukemia or something like that. He died there. And then they did that weird Kennedy autopsy, the JFK autopsy at Naval Bethesda Hospital. That botched that autopsy. So Donald Trump knew what time it was. And he got the hell on out of Dodge. He didn't stay that long in the hospital. They're trying to get him then. But God bless the president. God bless America. God bless the world, man. But anyway, I'm going to get out here. Just enough words from Brother Hurd. We all be in it to win it. If you like the words from Brother Hurd, please spread the word. Go to youtube.com/WeAllBTV2. Go to YouTube, not YouTube, but rumble.com. WeAllBTV. Sign up there. We need more people to sign up there. Let me put up the banner. And thank all the people who donated and will donate, because the struggle, life is a beautiful struggle. So yeah, subscribe to rumble.com/WeAllBTV. Do that for us to grow that channel. Because they don't censor like they do on YouTube or YT. YT don't like Blackie. YT don't like Blackie. YT don't like Blackie. And also you can buy and wear Art of His Art. Go to that R2C2H2's place at that website right there. Get you some Art of His Art. Look at my shirts, man. I wear my art. It's the French, my Uncle Frenchie and my Aunt Liv. We're married for almost 70 plus years, close to it. You can get artivist art. Who's rocking like that? Nobody rocks like the artivist. And y'all enjoying this free history lesson? I'm sure you are. And I guess that is. I guess I read a disclaimer. You don't want to do me no good because, like I said, ITV be removing my videos. But the struggle continue, the marathons continue, and we all be in it to win it. Oh, that's a wrong thing I put up. That's not what I want to put up. Nope. Yeah, that's what I want. Cash App your support, $R2C2H2. PayPal, Google Pay, and Zelle. Email R2C2H2@gmail.com. You can Vimo your support at R2C2H2. You can Apple Cash your support, 901-299-4355. Or join our Patreon, patreon.com/WeAllBe. Like I said, I will be in the process of uploading the band videos from YT onto the channel. So it's going to be fun. Let me see. Read the disclaimer, y'all, and I'm going to let y'all go. Class will be dismissed. Disclaimer: the views expressed by host and guests on the We All Be TV platform are not the official views, opinions, beliefs, or perspectives of We All Be News or the We All Be Group Incorporated. We All Be News is an organization that thoroughly believes in supplementing the information narrative that is usually supplied by the corporate news entities with these viewpoints and expressions which may be marginalized or ignored for a plethora of reasons. We are about informing the general public on alternative perspectives as it relates to news and information, and letting the general public be the ultimate judge in deciding on how to use said information. Informed citizens are responsible citizens. Thank you for your support, and we thank you all so much for y'all support. Words of Duke Ellington, we love you madly. In the words of Brother Ron, keep on producing and pushing. Oh, come on. We love you madly. Thank you. Yes, please, and support the cause. I want to do more of these shows, but they take I'm dedicated because I'm dedicated to walking 10,000 steps every day, and I'm dedicated to bringing y'all the news. Okay, so it's gonna be good. Oh, that's interesting. There you go. Follow the money. God bless you all. Yep. Thank you for receiving. Okay. Peace. Fight. I love it.